in an age lost to time. Nestled in a distant, rugged valley shielded by towering cliffs and dense forests, two tribes thrived, their lives entwined with ancient rituals and mysteries. The first tribe, known as the Ramkin, were hybrid beings with the powerful forms of humans and the strength of rams. Proud and enduring, they adorned their heads with thick horns and shoulders that resembled the armor of warriors. Their homeland lay deep in the highlands, where icy winds and rocky cliffs became their training grounds. Opposite them were the Turians, a tribe of powerful beings with traits of both humans and bulls. They held an imposing strength and fierce loyalty, with broad, muscular frames and sharp eyes. Living in the valleys below, surrounded by thick forests and fertile plains, the Turians valued resilience and unity, following strict codes of honor passed down through generations. For centuries, the Ramkin and the Turians coexisted in peace, each respecting the boundaries set by ancient accords. However, as resources dwindled, tensions began to rise, with rumors of betrayal and land disputes sparking fury on both sides. The fertile valleys and rivers at the borders became a contested territory point one dark winter night. A small group of Ramkin hunters ventured into Turian lands in search of food. Tensions were high, and a sudden confrontation escalated. Blood was spilled, and by dawn, the news of this breach had reached the Turian chief, a powerful warrior known for his unyielding nature. For him, this was not a mere skirmish, but a threat to their honor and survival. The Turians demanded recompense, a peace offering to ease the blood feud that had begun. But the Ramkin, led by their chieftain with pride as unshakable as the mountains, refused, unwilling to admit fault. This defiance sparked the beginning of a brutal and relentless war. Both tribes readied their warriors. The Ramkin, agile and deadly, moved like shadows through the rocky highlands, blending with the stone and snow. They relied on their horns and the swiftness of their movements to surprise their foes. The Turians, however, approached with the fury of a storm, charging forward with brute strength, wielding heavy weapons, and using their imposing physiques to overpower opponents. The first clash shook the ground, echoing through the valley as the rams and bulls collided. Neither side yielded, fighting with an intensity fueled by pride, honor, and an ancestral determination to defend their land and people. After weeks of intense skirmishes, the Turians devised a plan to weaken the Ramkin. Under the cover of darkness, they sent a team of warriors to sabotage the Ramkin's highland camps. Fires were set, food stores destroyed, and in one devastating night, the Ramkin's numbers began to dwindle. But the Ramkin were not easily broken. Rallying under their chieftain, they employed guerrilla tactics, using the terrain to their advantage, ambushing the Turians in narrow passes and leading them into traps hidden among the rocks. After months of brutal warfare, both sides were exhausted, their numbers reduced, and the valley littered with the fallen. Realizing the cost of the bloodshed, the chieftains of both tribes agreed to a final battle, a clash that would determine the rightful rulers of the land. But on a cold, misty morning, the two tribes met at the heart of the valley. The air was thick with tension, and silence fell as both sides prepared for the final confrontation. The Ramkin, with their swift agility, met the Turians' raw strength head-on, each side unleashing every ounce of strength they had left. Centuries passed, and memories of the ancient conflict faded into legend. The Ramkin and Turian tribes lived in strained peace, each occupying their lands, but suspicion lingered, especially among the younger generations who viewed the stories as superstitions meant to stoke fear. One harsh winter. Tensions reignited when a Ramkin scout reported that a Turian warrior had crossed into their sacred hunting grounds, an area rich with game. Outraged, the Ramkin chieftain interpreted this as a blatant act of defiance and sent a small group of warriors to retaliate. The Turians, in turn, viewed this as an unprovoked attack on their tribe and prepared to defend themselves. Once again, pride and fear fueled anger, pushing both tribes toward a war that history had tried to warn them against. The first battle was swift and brutal. Meeting at the borders of their territories, the Ramkin launched surprise attacks, using their agility and high ground advantage to inflict damage on the Turians. But the Turians, with their unyielding strength, countered with brutal force, overpowering the Ramkin and the lowlands. The valley once again echoed with the clash of horns, hooves pounding the earth, and war cries filling the air. Both tribes had forgotten the warnings of their ancestors, believing that this war was different, that their ancestors' mistakes would not be their in the midst of their battle. A dense fog rolled in, swallowing the valley. The warriors hesitated as an unnatural silence descended. From within the mist, ghostly figures began to emerge, spectral Ramkin and Turian warriors, locked in an eternal struggle, reliving their ancient battle. The present-day warriors watched in horror as the ghostly apparitions clashed beside them, paying no heed to the living. It was as though the curse of the valley had awakened, called forth by the blood that once again soaked the land. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and the ancient voice of the valley's spirits echoed. You who disturb our slumber, who renew the folly of pride and bloodshed, know the price of defiance. The warriors, once fierce and confident, were overcome with terror. Some dropped their weapons and fell to their knees, realizing they had rekindled a curse they thought was merely myth. From the shadows, the ghosts of the chieftains appeared, one from each tribe, bearing the same proud forms that led them into war centuries ago. They looked upon their descendants with cold eyes, filled with disappointment. The chieftain spoke as one, demanding that the leaders of both tribes step forward and face the trial of the valley. If they failed, the curse would consume them all, trapping their souls in endless conflict. Reluctantly, the Ramkin and Turian chieftains came forward. The spirits decreed that only by renouncing their pride and declaring peace could they end the cycle of violence. They ordered the living chieftains to set down their weapons and lead their warriors away from the valley. But there was resistance among some of the younger warriors, who still seethed with pride and anger. They refused to let go of the grudge, urging their leaders to defy the spirits. The valley seemed to sense this defiance, and with a sudden, chilling gust of wind, the spirits unleashed the curse fully. A deafening roar shook the valley, and icy winds turned the warriors' breath to frost. The spirits of fallen Ramkin and Turian surged forward, possessing the bodies of those who refused to yield, forcing them into a frenzy. Warriors who tried to fight back found their limbs stiffening, their breath shallow, as the curse began to freeze them from within. Their bodies turned pale, and ice crept up their skin, sealing them in frozen statues, monuments to the curse of the valley. Seeing the fate of their defiant warriors, the chieftains finally surrendered. Dropping their weapons, they called out to the spirits, vowing that their people would abandon the feud, never to return to the valley again. The spirits accepted their vow. The mist began to lift, and the ground stopped trembling. The ghosts faded, returning to their silent rest, satisfied that the lesson of their ancient war had finally been heeded. The surviving Ramkin and Turian warriors returned to their villages with heavy hearts, bearing stories of the curse and the wrath of the valley. To honor their ancestors and prevent the curse from being rekindled, both tribes came together, forging a new pact. They agreed to unite in peace, vowing never to let pride lead them into conflict again. That a sacred stone was placed at the valley's edge, engraved with the symbols of both tribes, reminding future generations of the cost of their ancestors' mistakes. They told their children and their children's children about the horrors they had witnessed, passing down the story as a cautionary tale. And so, the valley remained a place of silence, a haunted land where echoes of ancient battles could still be heard on windy nights. But to the Ramkin and Turians, it became a solemn symbol of unity, a reminder that peace could be stronger than pride, and that honor could be found not in battle, but in understanding.